All right, let's talk about something huge. How do we even have a meaningful conversation about God or any belief we can't, prove in a lab? I mean, if you hold a belief that can never, ever be proven wrong, is it even saying anything? This was the epic question at the center of a massive philosophical showdown in the 20th century, and we're going to break it all down.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. If you believe something and literally no piece of evidence could ever possibly change your mind, what is that belief actually claiming about the real world? Is it claiming anything at all? This is the core puzzle we're diving into today.
So, our story starts with the philosopher who kicked this whole thing off, Antony Flew. And he didn't start with a dense essay. He started with a simple story, a parable, about a couple of explorers, a mysterious garden, and a gardener who is, well, nowhere to be seen. Okay, so picture this. Two explorers are hacking their way through the jungle, and suddenly they stumble into this clearing. And it's weird. It's got these beautiful flowers growing, but it's also full of weeds. It's a real mix. Kind of looks tended, but also kind of wild and overgrown. And right away, they look at the exact same patch of ground and see two totally different things. The first explorer, let's call him the believer, says, "Whoa, look at this! A gardener has got to be taking care of this place." But the other one, the skeptic, just shakes his head and says, "Nah, no way, there's no gardener here." So they decide to settle it. They get serious. They set up a barbed wire fence around the clearing. They bring in patrol dogs, bloodhounds, the whole deal to try and catch this gardener in the act. But night after night, nothing. Not a single sound. The dogs don't pick up a scent. The fence is never disturbed. But here's where it gets really interesting. Does the believer give up? Nope, not at all. Instead of changing his mind, he just changes his definition of the gardener. He says, well, that's because the gardener must be invisible. And when further tests fail, he says, okay, he's also intangible, has no body, makes no sound, and has no scent. He just keeps adding these qualifications. And this is Flew's big punchline. The skeptic finally turns to the believer and asks the killer question. Okay, man, after all that, how is your invisible, intangible, silent, scentless, totally undetectable gardener any different from an imaginary gardener or from just no gardener at all? Has your belief been qualified into nothingness? The big idea Flew's using here is called the falsification principle. And it sounds complex, but it's pretty simple. It just means that for a statement to actually be meaningful, you have to be able to say what would prove it false. If nothing could possibly prove you wrong, then your statement isn't really saying anything about reality. Now, Flew threw down a pretty heavy challenge, but another philosopher, R.M. Hare, jumped into the debate, and his response was basically, "You're missing the entire point, Flew." For Hare, religious beliefs aren't even playing the same game as scientific facts. See, Hare makes this super important distinction. He says Flew is treating religious beliefs like factual assertions, like claims you can test. But Hare argues there's something totally different, something he calls a blik. And a blik isn't a claim. It's more like the fundamental lens you use to look at all the claims. To explain this, Hare tells his own little story. Imagine a student at a university who is absolutely convinced, 100%, that all his professors or dons are secretly trying to kill him. His friends, trying to help, introduce him to the kindest, most gentle professor they can find. But does it change his mind? Not one bit. He just says their kindness is proof of their diabolical cunning. No evidence can ever break through his conviction. That conviction, that is a blik. It's not a hypothesis that can be proven wrong. It's like the operating system running in his brain that interprets all the incoming data. Hare's point is that we all have bliks, these core, unfalsifiable assumptions about how the world works. And for him, religious faith is just that. It's not about evidence, it's a fundamental way of seeing. But wait, the debate doesn't stop there. A third philosopher, Basil Mitchell, jumps in. He felt that Flew was being way too dismissive, but that Hare went too far and made faith sound like a totally blind assumption. So he tried to find a middle ground. And of course, Mitchell has his own parable. This time, imagine a country occupied by an enemy during a war. A resistance fighter, a partisan, meets a mysterious stranger. The stranger tells him that he's secretly the leader of the entire resistance. The partisan is impressed, and he makes a profound commitment of trust. But then, things get complicated. He sees the stranger in an enemy uniform, seemingly helping the other side. His faith is seriously put to the test. And right here is Mitchell's central point. Unlike Hare's lunatic, the partisan doesn't just ignore the evidence that goes against his belief. He sees it, he acknowledges it's a real problem, and he admits that it counts against his faith. But, and this is the key, he doesn't let it conclusively destroy that initial commitment of trust. So for Mitchell, religious beliefs are assertions about the world, just like Flew said. A claim like God loves us is meant as a fact. The difference is, it's not some fragile hypothesis you throw away at the first sign of trouble. It's a belief held with a deep, personal commitment that's designed to withstand trials of faith and periods of doubt. So, where does that leave us? We've got 3 powerful stories and 3 really different ways of thinking about what it even means to believe in something we can't prove. Let's put them all side by side and see what we've got. When you see it all laid out like this, the whole debate just clicks into place, right? You've got Flew saying belief has to be a testable fact, like with the invisible gardener. Then there's Hare, who says no, it's an unfalsifiable blik, a whole worldview, like the paranoid lunatic. And finally, Mitchell comes in with the middle ground. It's an assertion, but one you hold with deep trust, like the trusting partisan. But at the end of the day, Flew's original warning still echoes. He argues that if you have a belief that you just keep changing and tweaking to explain away every bit of evidence against it, making the gardener invisible, then intangible, then silent, it's not being protected. It's withering away. It suffers, as he so memorably put it, a death by 1,000 qualifications. And that leaves us with the ultimate tough question, doesn't it? Where's the line between Basil Mitchell's committed partisan who holds on to trust even when it's hard and R.M. Hare's paranoid lunatic who is completely disconnected from reality? When does faith stop being a commitment and start being a blind assumption? It's a question that really forces us to think not just about what we believe, but about how we believe it.